Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about what I call detoured incoming messages. In other words, when you sit back and you look at your Outlook screen, you're looking at your inbox, usually you expect any email that you received to end up coming into there. And once in a while, it might not show up there. It'll go somewhere else. Well, where is that? Well, there's a number of different things that we can look at here. So I want to first of all talk about junk mail. Okay, Microsoft has a pretty good system where when mail comes into your system, it will kind of determine whether or not it's junk mail or if it's mail of value. If it determines that that message is valuable, then it lets it go into the inbox. Otherwise, it gets detoured to the junk mail folder. But once in a while, it might not know about a particular message and just accidentally maybe throw it into the junk mail, and then you don't think about going in or look, and of course then you get a message from somebody that says, "Hey, did you get my email?" And it's like, "No, I didn't get it." And then the first thing that comes to mind is, "Oh, maybe it got junked." So in this case, if I go down here to where we have our junk email, this is the folder that Outlook would throw those emails into, all right? And there they are. Now, I look at some of these. Some of them are definitely junk. Others are, they're email messages from people I do business with and so forth. And therefore, they might not be, what I would consider to be junk, but overall, maybe they are. But the point is that if you get a message in here that is from, let's say, maybe a customer or a colleague or something like that, and you want to make sure that in the future that doesn't happen, to those future messages, then this is what you would do. I'd go ahead and I'd point to, let's say, this one here. I'm going to consider this not to be junk, and therefore, next time I get an email message from them, I want Microsoft just to kind of, not consider it to be junk and kind of let it go into the inbox. Now, to make that happen in the future, what I would do is I would do a right click on it, all right? I go down here to junk, and I'd either say this is definitely, never block this sender, or I could say this is not junk. Now, by choosing that, it's going to look more at that email message and see what kind of subject matter is in there, and make that the basis now in determining, or updated basis in determining future junk mails, not necessarily maybe from that company, maybe from others, where it'll say normally it would throw it in the junk mail, but now because of this update, it might throw it into the inbox instead. So if you definitely want to make sure that that particular sender does not get blocked and that particular sender's mail always goes back into your inbox instead of getting thrown into junk, then you want to say never block sender, okay? So in this case, we're going to say never block sender, all right? And on here, it says it's been added to my saved senders list. I'll go ahead and hit OK, all right, and that's it. Now, it's not going to move that message over there for me, but I can, if I wanted to, I could just take that and move it into my inbox like that, and there we go. But you can assume that you're never going to get an email from that particular sender ever be thrown into your junk mail. It'll always go into the inbox. Now here's one from American Meadows. Now in this one, if I did a right click on it, went down to junk, and said this is not junk, if I do that, then what happens is it's basically just kind of telling me that it's going to always trust that email, and the message won't be moved back into the inbox folder. See, and I'd also say, trust mail coming from them as long as it's from that, it's going to that address. That's another email address I've got in my system here. So I just go ahead and hit OK, and there it goes, and it got moved back into the inbox. See, and then I'm never going to get that one from that company thrown back into the junk mail for future emails and email messages like it. Okay. Now let me just show you another thing we can do. When it comes to that junk mail. In this situation now, let's say that I get a message, let's say from these people here, and I consider that to be junk. In other words, I don't want to get email messages from these people. So what I want to do is make sure that in the future, if I get one from that sender, it will automatically go into junk mail. How do I do that? Well, I would do a right click on it. I'd go over here to junk and I'd say block sender. There we go. So that's what it's telling me here, and plus it's gonna, when I hit OK, it'll get moved into the junk mail. And I'll tell you, it's a pretty good system. You'll find, I mean, I might get maybe 1 or 2 messages a year, maybe, that were not junk. I once in a while get people telling me, oh yeah, I never got your message. It must have gotten junked. You know, people like to use it as an excuse too for not maybe replying to an email and pretending like they never got it. But just overall, it's a great little system. Now the other area I want to talk about is the Clutter folder that we have over here, and something called focused inbox. Now let me just backtrack a little bit and talk about this focused inbox. The focused inbox is usually not turned on your system. You have to actually turn it on. Now, let me just say this. Normally, when you're looking at your inbox, you have these 2 choices here, either to see all your email or to filter it down to just those emails that you haven't read yet. So that's how that works right now. If you go into the View tab and you go here where it says Show Focused Inbox and turn that on, then that changes to now where we have Focused and we have Other. Now, the way this works is that Outlook is able to look at your incoming messages and determine whether or not they're worthy of you reading. In other words, if they're important, okay? So if you look at the focused ones, these are messages from people that I definitely want to hear from. I find that their information, their messages are of value to me, no problem. On the other hand, I click on the Other, and these are messages that are not that important to me. They are mostly like advertising and things like that, and the program is able to actually kind of determine that pretty well. Now, once in a while, a message will appear in the Other that you find to actually be important, all right, that you'd rather be placed into the focused area, right? So what you can actually do, let's say for instance, let's say Angie's list here, right? Let's just say that you feel, even though it's an advertising kind of thing, this is something that you want to see. You don't want it to be in this other area, all right? So what you can do is you can do a right click on it, all right? And then you have on here something called Move to Focused, all right? Or you can say Always Move to Focused, right? So the difference is going to be, this is just going to move it to the focused, and next time if you get another one from Angie's, it's still going to go into Other. But at the same time, if you were to instead do the Always, then the next time Angie sends a message, it'll automatically go into focus. See, so if I just click on Always Move to Focused, and then I'll hit yes on that, now it goes over, and now it's going to be over my focused. So really, both of these areas here are in the inbox, okay? It's just that we've got like a split view, almost like a filter type view here, okay, on each one of them. Now, at some point, if you say, you know what, I don't really like this, I don't like the idea of having to go back and forth like this, then what you can do instead is just go back into View, go back to where it says Show Focused Inbox, and do that, and now everything is there. All right, so that's a pretty good tool. Now, that's actually the newest of tools, all right? The other one we have here is something called Clutter. Clutter works pretty much the same way, not as well, but what happens here is that you're going to get email thrown into there, okay, that once again Outlook determines as being unimportant mail, all right? The only problem with this kind of thing is that it involves you having to go down there to look for mail that might have accidentally gotten in there, you know, that you don't see showing up here in the inbox. All right. Keep in mind too, though, that clutter has become such a problem for Microsoft because a lot of people are complaining that they have to always go down to clutter to see what's in there and if there's anything in there that they missed and so forth. So I think it's going to be like January of 2020. They're going to be removing this clutter feature, and it's going to be replaced with the focused. So at that point, then you don't have to worry about clutter. You don't have to worry about whether or not you want to keep it focused. So in this case, with having the focused on, you're going to have your important mail there and the not so important advertising and that type of mail in there. And I showed you earlier how to make it so where if you've got mail that was in the other and you really want it to be in focused or vice versa, you would just do a right click on it and you'd see that change. So if I had on this one, I don't want this to be in focused, or in the other, I want this to be in focused, I can just do a right click on it, all right? And I can say always move to focused. And on the other hand, if I'm unfocused, all right, and I've got an email, let's say from somebody, I can do a right click on that. And in that case, I've got the always move the other. And that way, anytime I get anything from that person, it's always going to go into the other, right? So pretty good deal. I think either one of those choices is something I think worthwhile. But again, the clutter is going to go adios, and we're just going to be working with the focus and whether or not you want it or not. So if you don't want the focused at that point, go back in there and just kind of turn it off there and you're set. So okay, so hopefully you liked the video. I appreciate you watching. Take care.